And we're talking about his business, which is?
Aeon Health. It's a bioenergetic healing practice.
Okay, so let's start off with what we're going to do today. Tell me what the process is. So we've already done the interview. You told me you do these scans. What do these scans measure?
So the scans measure your energy fields and overall energy within each of your cells in the body. And considering you have about 70 to 100 trillion cells, there's a lot of data that we'll be assessing. And the way we do this is with this little scanner right here that looks a little bit like an Apple Magic Mouse. And the scanner picks up all of the energy fields within you, and it only takes about 10 seconds. Then once we've completed the scan, we look at the results. And we do that on my laptop. And today I'll be taking you through all of the results so we can look at how strong are your energy fields? Are there any areas in your body that require more energy? Is there energy that is potentially stagnant anywhere in the body? And how do your emotions, your beliefs, and potential trauma from the past, are they affecting you in any way that might eventually turn into something physical?
Do you find that some people are just more aware of their body than other people?
Absolutely. But I do find that in today's world, we're being distracted by so many different things, especially our cell phones, computers, and TV. There's so much out there. There's so much entertainment that we can indulge in, and that in some cases really numbs our brain, and we just sit there and we take in all of this information through our cell phone screens and TV screens, that a lot of people are no longer in tune with their bodies. And that's also one of the reasons why we see so much chronic conditions occurring for so many people, no matter if they're young or old, because we have lost that connection with our bodies. And the scan, it shows the individual what is currently going on within me on the deepest level, because we're not really concerned about the symptoms a person is experiencing, but more so what is the true cause. And to determine the true cause, we look at the deepest level there is, and that's the level of energy. And when I show a client the scan results, they can then see what is going on, and they start to draw the connections between the way they feel emotionally, the trauma that they may have experienced, and where they're currently experiencing discomfort or pain or digestive issues and so forth. So they can start to draw the connection and slowly but steadily become more in tune with themselves again.
Does the scan change? So, for instance, if something traumatic happened to somebody, would the scan change? If it was an emotional thing, would the scan change at a cellular level?
Absolutely. Especially when we experience emotional trauma. Oftentimes we're not even aware of how traumatic an event may have been for us, especially when we talk about childhood trauma that happened to us a long time ago in the past. But any emotional disturbances have a huge impact on us and our energy. So when a person, for instance, experienced something traumatic during their childhood, when we are the most impressionable, so we're the most receptive towards anything and everything that's occurring to us, we can see huge changes occurring on an energetic level first, which over the years and over the decades can literally manifest itself into physical discomfort and pain. And that's oftentimes where we see chronic conditions arising basically out of nowhere.
Okay, so somebody comes to you and they see that there's a problem with their human body field. I'm just reading your information over there. So then do you treat them or do you refer them out?
I generally treat them. The way that is done, I use this handheld device, which allows me to generate a energy field that then interacts with the person's energy field. And I can set the frequency range of this energy field to mimic whatever energy field we're dealing with in the person. So for instance, if the person is having issues with their liver energy field, and it shows up on the scan, we can then set the frequency range to replicate the energy field of the liver. And through this interaction from the device to the person's body, we can actually bring up the energy and resolve any distortions that might be present in the field.
Do you do this on yourself?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so what have you found over, like, has your energy field changed the more you're self-aware?
Oh, absolutely. So the treatments are a great way to get people started, but eventually my goal is always to teach people certain tools and educate people in a way that they can do it to themselves, basically, without using a device. The device in the beginning is really good to kickstart the healing process for people. But my focus in my practice is I want people to become self-reliant and self-sufficient. So I usually provide them with tools such as breathing exercises or encouraging them to meditate, as well as other resources, so that they know what they can do and they start doing it to themselves. And when they come up for a follow-up scan and they start to realize, wow, things are changing, things are shifting, and I can actually feel that I'm getting better, I'm getting healthier, they start to realize this is all me, I'm doing this, and I don't have to necessarily rely on anyone. So my goal is that later down the track in a person's healing journey, they're no longer reliant on me or any other practitioner.
Okay, so do people feel vulnerable when they do this? I was thinking as I was coming down, I'm like, oh my God, this is making me nervous.
They do. Some people more than others. And
I'm sweating.
And some people like to share before we start that they are feeling a little bit uncomfortable. But in the end, you're doing it for yourself. So it becomes an act of love that you are actually, you're brave enough now to face it and to face the truth of what is really going on within you. And that is the first and biggest step we can take towards our betterment, our true healing, because we're going to start to look at the cause, the root cause, and then we work our way from there. This is not a band-aid solution. We're not too concerned about symptoms, as I said before. We truly want to see what is at the root so we can work and release the root cause. And the beautiful thing is when we do that, everything else falls into place, because we are not trying to be better than your body. We're not trying to be better than anything else. We are just playing with the innate intelligence that your body carries within you.
I find though some people, they know there's a problem, they just ignore it anyway.
They do. And from my experience with clients, there comes a time where the physical symptoms occur so frequently and so intensely that there will be a point where the person will have to say, okay, I can no longer live in denial. I can no longer ignore this. I have to do something about this. And that's usually when people come to see me. So I'm going to be setting up the scanner, and then we'll scan you, which will take about 10 seconds. And after that, we will talk you through the whole process, all of the results and what they can potentially mean for your case. You'll have access to all of the information from your home computer or smartphone for the rest of your life, so you can always refer back to it and just use it as a reference point. And in order to do that, we'll just be setting up an account for you with your email address and a password that you can change at any point.
Right, and the hope is that when you come back, you'll see a change in these results.
Exactly. So we can look, if next time you come back for a follow-up scan, we can actually then look at today's scan compared to the scan we'll be taking in the future, and you'll be seeing exactly where things have shifted, what things have improved, what things have not improved. And then usually the things that have remained fairly stagnant, those are the areas that we want to pay particular attention to.
Do you find diet is a big portion of this?
It is to a certain extent, but we also have to remember that our digestive system is heavily affected by stress. So oftentimes when people deal with food allergies and food sensitivities, those are caused not necessarily by the food that they're consuming, but more so because the digestive system has been under so much stress that it no longer has the energy to fully assimilate the food. So when the digestive system is no longer able to assimilate all of the nutrients and starts to react towards certain foods and considers certain foods toxic or an opponent to the system, then we start to notice discomfort, and we start to notice that people experience food sensitivities. Okay, so you can now choose whether you want to use your right or your left hand, and you place it on the scanner. And as soon as the scanner has picked up all of the energy fields, we can start the process. As you can see, it has now changed from red to green, so we are ready to scan. I would say about 90% of the people that I see come here with the desire to find a solution to whatever the problem is. And oftentimes they don't quite know yet what the true problem is. And the other 10% are people that feel really good overall, and they just like to do this once a year as a checkup, exactly, just to see where their well-being is at, and if they can take certain steps to take their well-being to the next level, basically. So before we dive in, I just want to show you that over here, and I can actually magnify this too, we have a legend that says scan priority. So a scan priority is basically indicating where there is an energetic imbalance present in your body at this point. To determine what the priorities are, you can see they're color-coded, so we only focus on the purple and the oranges, which are the highest and second highest priority. Now, I also want to point out that a priority doesn't mean it's a severity. So it doesn't mean that if a priority shows up for your liver energy field, that there is anything severely wrong with the physical liver, but it simply means that energetically speaking, we're seeing that there is an imbalance currently present, and we want to determine why that is happening. Because the longer we carry certain energetic imbalances within the body, the more likely it is that they turn into and manifest themselves into physical issues. So this tool can be a proactive tool, so we can actually pick up things before they become something in the physical body, since it's all done energetically. And it can also be a retrospective tool where where we want to look at something that's already physically present, and we want to find out what the root cause for it is. So the first screen that we're looking at is the so-called energy source screen. Yeah. And here we're looking at all of the different sources within your environment that you utilize on a daily basis to receive energy, whether it's the energy from the food that you consume, the water that you drink, or the liquids that you drink, kinetic energy through movement, the quality of your breathing, which is also an indicator how stressed a person is at times, our circadian rhythm over here with day and night cycle, and down here, the big fields, this indicates how well you're connected and aligned with the Earth's energetic fields. So just as our body contains energy fields, so does our planet. And it's important that we remain aligned and connected to these Earth's magnetic fields, because the planet actually acts as a charging pad for all of our cells. So at any given moment in our lives, we are being charged by our planet's energy, basically. Okay. In your case, the only priority that we're seeing is under movement, kinetic energy. So this can mean that you either have a tendency to move a lot, which requires a lot of energy for your system, or at this point in time, you haven't been moving as much as your body wants you to.
So it's interesting because our rowing team has not really rowed in a month. So I am feeling it right now.
Okay, perfect. So there we already have the explanation why this would be potentially showing up for you. One thing that I want to point out that's actually really nice to see is down here, as I was saying before, the Earth's magnetic fields and how well you're connected and aligned to them is not showing as a priority. And this is really nice to see, because for over 95% of my clients, it shows up as a priority. And when we consider what day and age we're living in, we're constantly on our phones. We're constantly exposed to Wi-Fi signals and TV screens in our bedrooms, computers, and so forth. And these devices generate energy fields too. But these energy fields are man-made, and they are so much stronger than the energy fields we're used to within our bodies and within nature itself. So oftentimes people really start to notice the effect that these man-made energy fields have on them, particularly their nervous system.
So what I find, I am conscious of that. So I try and be outside at least once a day doing something for half an hour. Either it's rowing or it's walking my dog or something.
And that's beautiful. That's actually the one thing I always encourage people to do when they have a priority showing up here, is to go into nature, because there we are further away. We're completely unplugged from any of these man-made energy fields. And we can also allow ourselves to be recharged. Now, you mentioned rowing, which obviously takes place on a large body of water, and particularly the ocean. And it is those large bodies of water that are very grounding. So if a person actually experiences issues with man-made energy fields, the best thing they can do is go for a walk along the water, whether that's a lake or the ocean. The ocean is preferred because salt water, especially when you put your feet into the water, the salt water is more conductive in terms of electricity, so it actually allows us to ground ourselves more effectively than just being on the beach or in the forest, although those are also really great ways to do it. So overall, it's looking pretty good. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the next section of the scan, and we'll take into consideration that movement has shown up, because movement not only refers to the external movement that you do, for instance, when you go rowing or running and walking, but it also refers to the movement that is done internally, for instance, your digestive system, your heart, because all of these actions, the pumping of the heart and digestion itself, requires movement, requires muscle strength. So the second screen that we're looking at is the so-called energy strength screen. And here we're looking at the different energy fields that are generated by your major organs, such as your heart, your lungs, your stomach, as well as bodily systems such as the nervous system over here and the immune system over here. When we assess you energetically, we don't just focus on each item individually. We also want to see how these items, how these organs and systems are related to one another, and what these connections, these patterns can actually teach us. Oftentimes it's the patterns that start to evolve during a scan that really allow us to see what is the true cause. For you, we're seeing that the heart is showing up as well as circulation. So the heart is in charge of circulation. So this is the first pattern that we're starting to see evolve. We're also seeing that muscles are showing up as a group, and muscles refer to movement, what we saw over here too. And it also refers to the heart itself, because as I mentioned before, the heart relies on muscle strength, so it can actually perform all of its bodily tasks. So this is the biggest pattern that we're already starting to evolve quite strongly, is there's a focus on the heart and everything that it performs, basically. So making sure circulation is taking place, and relying on muscle strength in the body. Now we also have two other items showing up. Source. So the source field refers to an energy that we're actually born with. It's a very primal energy that we all carry, whether that's humans or animals. And it is basically our backup reserve of energy. It is what drives everything in our body. And oftentimes when we see that showing up as a priority, as it is showing up in your case, it oftentimes means that there has been an energetic drainage occurring for quite some time. Oftentimes that's because of the lifestyle that a person is living. If someone is under a lot of stress, and even when we don't perceive stress as potential stress that's affecting us, subconsciously it can oftentimes affect us more than we actually consciously want to believe. So generally when source is showing up, it never shows up on its own. So it usually shows up with something else. And in your case, it's showing up with the heart, meaning that whatever has been affecting the heart has been taking place for quite some time, so that the body has started to utilize its backup energy. And we're also seeing that further reinforced by the item known as the triple cavity. I'm just going to click on this item because you can click on each of the items on the scan and it will bring up a little help file on the right hand side. So you can always refer back to the scan and actually read about your scan and what it potentially means for you. The triple cavity is, in traditional Chinese medicine, it's actually referred to as an organ. It's not a physical organ, it's more so philosophically an organ. And the triple cavity refers to the three cavities that we carry in our body. So it's the skull, the chest, and the abdomen. And it is these three cavities where we store a lot of energy.
Looks like alignment.
Absolutely. It has a lot to do with alignment, and it also refers directly to what we're seeing over here under source, because source energy, this very primal energy that we all rely on, is stored in these three cavities of the body. So overall, what we're seeing is that there is a focus on your heart, not necessarily the physical heart, but certainly the non-physical, the energetic heart, and that something is occurring that has been taking place for quite some time, and it has been draining you of energy to the point where now the system has decided we need to use our backup, basically. We're going to be keeping in mind everything that you've said, what is currently emotionally going on, and we're going to be looking at the scan now with that knowledge, because for me as the practitioner, I obviously know very little about the client that I'm going to sit down with. So when we discuss the results, it's so important that you share when you feel like it's something that you want to share, because it helps me to understand the scan a lot better. And when I understand the scan a lot better, you can also get deeper insights into what is truly going on.
So to me, it's a lot of just self-awareness.
It is. It really is. And the scan, as I mentioned earlier, is about bringing people back into the alignment with their self-awareness, because we all carry that potential within us. But oftentimes we allow ourselves to be so distracted by everything in life that we are no longer self-aware. But that doesn't mean that we don't have the potential. Now, the next screen that we're looking at is the so-called energy flow screen. And here we're looking at different energy pathways, which are also known as meridians. So these energy pathways actually allow energy to flow through the body, head to toe, toe to head. And it is oftentimes these energetic pathways that can suffer from blockages here and there. And blockages will result in stagnant energy, and that in turn can over time cause a lot of physical discomfort and chronic conditions. So with you, we're seeing that the meridian, the heart meridian, is showing up, as well as the kidney meridian, the triple burner, and the spleen. Now, the triple burner, because it's showing up as the highest priority, is very much like the triple cavity. So it's an indicator of how much are you currently utilizing your energetic reservoirs. And because it's showing up as a priority, it is likely that you are using a lot of that backup energy to ensure that the body can still function at the level that it needs to function. We're also seeing a very interesting duality here between the heart and the kidneys. In traditional Chinese medicine, the kidneys are most affected by fear. So in traditional Chinese medicine, there's usually one emotion that is assigned to one organ. The heart representing love and representing the seat of our emotions. And then the kidneys representing aspects of fear that might be present in a person's life. When we look at the heart and the kidney, heart representing love and kidneys representing fear, we see that this duality is really the exact opposite of each other. So heart representing love, the opposite of love is not hate, it's actually fear. So now we need to start to ask ourselves the question, what aspect or aspects in your life are causing you fear? And oftentimes those are of emotional nature. We're now looking at the mind-body screen. And the mind-body screen allows us to draw the connection between what is your physical landscape looking like and how do emotions and trauma affect that. And the way we do this is quite remarkable, because the scanner picks up 4 different energy fields that are generated by 4 different areas in your brain. From the brain stem generating an energy field all the way up to the cerebral cortex. And in your case, we're seeing that the priority is showing up for the cerebral medulla. And you'll notice that there is different numbers showing up, as well as different titles on the left-hand side. The numbers correlate directly with the scan priorities. So we have anything from a 0 to a 4. A 0 is low, 1, 2, 3, 4. Because we only focus on the purples and the oranges, we're only going to focus on the 4s and the 3s. The titles that we see appear next to the numbers are different themes of trauma. Now, a lot of people might ask, how is it possible that we can actually pick up these kind of things in a person? We have to remember that everything in the universe is based on energy. And energy has a frequency. So depending on what energy we're looking at, the frequency might be different. And emotions and the thoughts that we think, the beliefs that we hold, they're all energy too, which means they have a particular frequency as well. And the scanner can pick up these variations in frequency, and then we can determine what are we looking at? What is the emotion that we're looking at? And a collection of emotions might form a particular trauma, so we can also determine what is the trauma theme. Most of these trauma, for most people, refer to an event or a series of events that took place during their childhood. And the reason for that is when we're between the ages of 0 and 7, our brain is undergoing so much development. And at that point, it hasn't quite developed a filter yet. So at that point, we don't quite know yet what is right and what is wrong. So during the ages of 0 and 7, our brains are basically like sponges that absorb everything from our environment. Because, we were born, we're now on this planet, everything is foreign to us, everything is new to us. In order to make sense of it all, we need to absorb it all. And because we don't have the filter at that point yet, we will absorb all the good and all the bad. And that's how oftentimes trauma, and it doesn't even have to be a severely traumatic event. It can also be something that's, when we look at it as an adult, we think, how did I consider that to be traumatic? But at that age, we do. And some of the trauma, we simply have no tools to deal with, and we won't let it go. When we don't let the trauma go, that energy, that low frequency energy that oftentimes people describe as heavy, dark, or cold, remains with us, and it remains in the body. And when I present my clients with this particular screen, they see the words, and as you can see, the words they're very general. So I like to compare them to you reading your zodiac sign in the newspaper. And the description on the right-hand side, too, it's written in a way that it's general enough for every person, every client that comes to see me to be able to get something out of it. And there will be certain words, certain trigger words that will bring up things for them. And when we sit down and a client looks at it, they draw the connection almost instantly because their system wants them to know. There comes a time where you're ready to receive the information that you need to take your healing to the next level. And that's exactly what happens here. So oftentimes there is a hunch that a person has about the word that is showing up or the description that is showing up. And what that means is everything is being brought back into their awareness. And that also means all the energy. So this is the start of a very deep exploration that you can do. It's obviously by choice. And that's also one of the reasons you have access to all of your results for the rest of your life. Because some people need some time. They need some time for the information to settle. And they might even need some time just to allow everything to settle and then to forget about it for a little bit before they can start to really tackle it. But that's the beauty of it, because you can do it at your own pace whenever you feel, okay, now I'm ready. Now I have some inner peace and I can look at all of this and I can really start to explore within me. And as people start doing it, they then start to realize it's all within my power. I make the decisions, and I truly make all the decisions in my life. So if I want to heal, I know what I need to do next. And I also know from personal experience and experience with my clients that we don't always have the right tools. We don't always know how to approach these things. So there's a few different resources that I always like to provide my clients with, that they can choose and pick from what they want to utilize. And all of these things that I usually provide are things they can teach to themselves. That's a very crucial component, because I always want to empower my clients so they can take the steps and they can do everything themselves, because at the end of the day, that's the only way you will heal. There is no practitioner really out there that can do that for you. At the end of the day, it's you. Your body's innate intelligence determines what shows up as a priority. So the scan really just represents what is occurring within you. That means there is nothing in this software that decides what is the priority and what is not a priority. It just mirrors exactly what's occurring within you. The other thing I want to show you under this particular screen is we can look at the actual emotions that are affecting you too. So not just the trauma, but also the individual emotions. And here we're seeing peace showing up, humility, the perception of security, despair, and guilt. Now, we obviously don't need to get into too much detail with any of them, because at times they can be very intimate. But for you, it's important that you look at them when you're at home, when you're feeling in a safe environment, and you just allow them to sit with you for a little while, because eventually things will resurface. These emotions, they're really just trigger words that will cause your subconscious mind to go, okay, she wants us to go to work, so we're going to work right now. We're going to be uncovering why despair is showing up, what guilt might be referring to. And these things will bubble up. They may not bubble up immediately. You know, it's interesting. Sometimes a person keeps these words in the back of their head because the subconscious mind will remember them. And then 3 days later, they show up. Honestly, it still blows my mind to this day, the work that I do and how accurate the scan is. And then how helpful it becomes for each individual. That's one of the reasons why I love the work so much that I do, because I see how deeply rooted things are that we deal with, and how the system can pick them up, even if a person has built such a shelter and around themselves or pushed certain emotions down so much. But first and foremost, these are your emotions, and they're affecting you more than anyone else. That's why the conversation always has to start with you. And you will notice that once you've cleared things for yourself, they oftentimes automatically clear for other people too, because it just shows us this interconnectivity that we have with our loved ones, the people that are close to us, on an energetic level. If we clear energy for us, and this energy is no longer present for us, then it is very likely that it will also no longer be present for the other person, or at least no longer at the same level. 2 more things I want to show you. I'm not going to be going into all of the different sections of the scan, because we'll be sitting here for much longer. And in your case, we've already looked at the most important things. There's 2 more things I just want to show to you and the viewers so they know what else the scan can actually pick up. We can look at the environment screen, and we can look at different chemicals, whether they're in our home or work, cleaning products, heavy metals, electromagnetic radiation, insecticides from the food that we eat, and how it affects us and how it can actually throw us off balance energetically. In your case, we're seeing that there is nothing showing up as a priority, which is really nice to see. It doesn't necessarily mean that none of them affect you energetically, but what it truly shows is that this is not where your body has decided there is a priority. You know, your body really wants you to focus on the emotional rather than what is potentially occurring in your immediate environment and how that affects you. The other screen I want to show you is the nutrition screen. And here we're looking at the minerals, the vitamins, as well as antioxidants, your metabolism in general, malabsorption rate, so how well or how badly you absorb nutrients, and very importantly, potential food sensitivities and food allergies. And then last but not least, this is the screen that shows us the areas that I'm going to be focusing on during the treatment, because I obviously don't want you to just leave here without having received a treatment. It's really nice to know and receive the insights of what you need to work on an emotional level, on a non-physical level. But we want to kickstart the healing process right away, and that's why I provide the treatments. So you can leave here with more energy, and energy that is now flowing more freely through the body, because these areas are basically areas that indicate where energy is currently distorted or stagnant. So we want to make sure that everything flows well and that you leave here with an abundance of energy so you can go about your days and you can take that next step towards your healing. Another thing that I just briefly want to mention, the portal that you log into, it also has a bunch of free resources such as videos, articles, podcasts, and music that you can utilize to teach yourself certain techniques that will take your healing further. So there's a lot of free stuff, basically, that comes with this access to the portal. But the most important aspect is, of course, your scan results. So you can use them as a reference point at any time.
Okay, so now we've done the scan. What are the next steps?
So the next step would be that I'll have you lie down on the mat that's right behind us. And the mat is filled with copper coiling.
I noticed it was very comfortable under my elbow.
Yeah, it is very comfortable. That's why a lot of people actually fall asleep during the treatment. When I plug the mat into the outlet, we can then have an electric flow running through the copper coiling, and this electric flow actually allows for an energy field to build up. This energy field replicates the energy field you would find out in nature. So it's a very natural, very healing, very low intensity energy field. And while you're lying on the mat, you're actually bathing in this energy field, which means that all of your 70 to 100 trillion cells will pick up this charge so they can perform the tasks that they need to perform on a regular basis. So we're basically increasing cellular charge in your body. While that is happening, I'm going to be using this device over here. And as I mentioned earlier, it generates another energy field. And the energy field generated by the device allows me to target certain areas in your body that the scan picked up as having an energetic imbalance or a distortion. But the entire treatment is done off body. So I'm not actually going to touch you at any point. And, we wear rings, watches, earrings, and so forth. Small amounts of metal don't really interfere with the devices and the treatment. However, if I'm seeing someone who has a metal plate in the body, then during the intake process, we're actually exploring if there is anything present in the body that would affect the treatment.
I do have a metal plate in my arm.
In your arm. Okay, perfect. So that would be an area that we don't spend too much time on. However, because the treatment is done with such low intensity energy and it's done off body, even if we focused on these areas, it wouldn't have a negative effect on you at all. It's interesting because oftentimes I get asked, what are the side effects are there any negative side effects of these forms of treatment? And because we're only utilizing such low frequency energy, such natural energy, there is no negative side effects whatsoever. What the treatments do is actually, it allows you to absorb nutrients better. So the next meal that you have, you'll be able to absorb the nutrients from the food a lot better. You will most likely also feel more awake if you've been suffering from clouded brain. That will be reduced or be gone completely. And if you're dealing with cold or flu symptoms, that will also be changing. So there's a lot of positive side effects that occur during and after the treatment, usually up to 3 to 4 days after the treatment. But there are no negative side effects, which is quite beautiful because it means that even if you got one of these devices for your home use, if you want to use it on your family and make sure that your family stays healthy, you can't really do any harm with it.
What's the youngest that you've worked with somebody?
16. And I also work with animals. So every now and then people bring in their dogs and their cats. And the beautiful thing about animals is they don't have the same mind as we do. We are oftentimes struggling with doubts and that voice that we don't really want to listen to. Animals don't have that. So animals are a lot more receptive towards these treatments because during the treatment, they don't think about, I don't even know if this is working or not because he's not even touching me. They just receive it. They just accept it for what it is. And oftentimes animals require one treatment and that's it.
Okay, let's do the treatment. Okay, so I've just undergone the treatment, off-body treatment, and I have to say I look more relaxed. So, and I saw color. We had a discussion that that's normal. I saw blue, and I saw this kind of pulsing. It almost like waves going through my head. And then I did feel a bit of tingling. Is tingling specific to where I'm needing work, or tell me more about that?
Usually it would be where we need to focus on, but not always is the tingling related to an area that is very sensitive. Oftentimes you also notice the tingling traveling through the body, which is literally the energy traveling through the body. And what you noticed about the pulsing, that is the pulsed electromagnetic field that is being created. So for 1 second it is present, for the next second it's gone, and then it resurfaces.
And so when I saw the color blue, so what does that mean?
So oftentimes the colors that we see correlate with the chakras, and the chakras that are out of balance. So in your case, it was the third eye chakra, which is represented by the color blue. And when it is out of balance, this chakra, this energy center, we need to ask ourselves, why is it out of balance? And with the third eye chakra in particular, it is emotions and judgment that can really throw it out of balance. And that would correlate directly with what we saw today in your scan.
Okay, so how do people get in touch with you?
The easiest way is to go to my website, www.aeon.health, or via Instagram, same address, just without the W's, so aeon.health.
Okay. And how often should people plan to stay with you if they're having a treatment?
The initial session takes about 2 hours. That includes the scan, it includes the assessment, and about a 30-minute treatment. The reason the first session is fairly long is because we want to make sure that the person understands everything that we're looking at, what it means for them, what steps they can take to heal, and then ensure that there is still plenty of time for an actual treatment. And then follow-up sessions would be an hour long, which also include the assessment, a follow-up scan basically, and a treatment, which will be about 30 minutes long. Apart from that, you can also book a standalone treatment session where people just come in to receive the treatment, which would be 30 minutes long. And that can also be done on body as well as off body. For on body treatments, I utilize these carbon pads, which we can also use for acute injuries. So if anyone has a sporting injury, for instance, and they're not wanting to just deal with it using painkillers, we can treat the surrounding area directly and allow healing to take place at a much faster rate.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so if you want more information, contact Maximillian, Aeon.health. And if you want more information about where he lives, which is in the Cook Street area, contact me. I'm Jane Johnston with the Bar Hill Group at Remax Camosun. Take care and have a very relaxing day.